So welcome. This is Mr. John from explainingmaths.com. Long time. It's good to see you again. We're gonna do a full paper together. It's May, June 2018, and we have 90 minutes to complete the paper. This is paper 23. And many of you have your own exams soon, so all the best. And while you're sitting there in the examination room and you have to wait to start, just tell yourself, I'm not just going to finish this paper, I'm going to make sure it really is the best version of my work. Yeah? So 90 minutes of full focus and try the very best you can. Don't be anxious. Yes, of course you'll be nervous a little bit, but just believe in yourself. And until that time, make sure to go to my website, explainingmaths.com, and understand all those topics because I explain them there in short videos. Okay. While we're waiting for the examiner to tell us to start, we're just reminding us that we're going to round properly, but just write down all the decimal places anyway, and then round only at the very end your final answer. Okay, let's start. And we can turn over the page. And a paper two, I wouldn't really flick through the entire paper before you start. But if I look at the first page, I see it's all 1 point questions. So it's just the answer, 2 questions for 2 points. So perhaps some workings and again some 1 point questions. So let's start. Here we go. One day in Chamonix, the temperature at noon was 6 degrees Celsius. Oh, Chamonix. That brings back memories, guys. Beautiful place. At midnight, the temperature was 11 degrees Celsius lower. Yeah, so I emphasize while I read the question, write down, no working, the temperature at midnight. So it was 6. Take away 11. You may want to use a calculator for that, but the answer is -5. Next question, again for 1 point, factorize W plus W cubed. It doesn't even say factorize completely. So for 1 point, there's only one thing you can do is take out that highest common factor. 1 plus W squared goes inside those brackets. Now, I'm using a pencil, by the way, which is ridiculous because you, of course, have to write using black or dark blue ink. So I'm going to continue with that now. Liz takes 65 seconds to run 400 meters. Calculate her average speed for 1 point. So it even tells you the unit meters divided by seconds. So 400 divided by 65. I'm just going to take my calculator to do that. So you don't have to write down those workings. There we go. 400 divided by 65. 80 over 13. I'm going to write that as a fraction rather than a decimal because then I have to write down all those numbers. For 2 points now, complete the list of factors of 36. They've done a few for you, 1, 2, and 36. So it's not really workings you got to show, but you just got to write down all those factors. And with factors, just do that here on the side. I always encourage my students to draw a factor tree, as it's a little bit of a tree, and to write down all the factors in pairs. So 1 and 36 is a factor pair, but it's already there. 1 times 36 makes 36. 2 times 18, so put 18 there. So write it as a factor pair to make sure you don't forget any factors. 3 times 12, you can use your calculator for that, but 36 divided by 3 is 12. What about 4? 4 and 9. So 4 and 9 are factors. And is that it? 5 is not a factor. No, 6 times 6, of course. So 6 is a factor. Now, it doesn't say you have to do that necessarily in ascending order, but I have. Fantastic. Moving on, increase $22 by 15% for 2 points. Several ways to write down your workings. For instance, 22 times 1.15, which means 115% of the original. Let's grab your calculator. 22 times 1.15 equals, and that will be 25.3. And because it's money, let's do 2 decimal places, $25.30. Fantastic, right? 209,802 to the nearest thousand. Okay, and the 1,000 is the 9, and the 9 goes up because of the 8. So it becomes 210,000. So make sure to put those zeros there. Right, 4,123, correct to 3 significant figures, again for 1 point. So what is the third significant figure? That is that 2. And it stays a 2 because the next number is a 3, so lower than a 5. So it's 4,123. 20. So, very nice questions to start with. Let's find out what else they have for us. Question 7. The probability that Kim wins a game is 0.72. In 1 year, Kim plays 225 games. Work out an estimate of the number of games Kim will win for 2 points. Well, you would expect her to win, and then you're going to multiply the chance by the amount of experiments and the amount of games you play in this case, and your calculator tells you 162. Write this standard format, scientific notation, as an ordinary number for 1 point to the power minus 3. I'm just curious if my calculator will do that for me. Let me see. I'm sure there is a way to do that. Minus 3 equals no, it doesn't. Okay. Well, you're just going to make sure that you move the numbers correctly. So 3 steps. So you're going to get 0. Let me do it correctly. 0.0482. Just to check that. So 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Indeed, it is between the 4 and the 8. Yeah. So make sure you're going in the right direction. This is a very small number. Write 52 million in standard form. Well, a million has 6 zeros, so perhaps you should want to write that down. 52 million, okay, for 1 point in standard form. So it's always a number directly followed by the decimal point, so 5.2 in this case, times 10 to the power. The decimal point is here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's there to the power 7. So these are quite confusing questions. So make sure on your exams you really take care that you check yourself constantly, because although it's only 1 point, those are points you want to get. Moving on for 2 points, solve which number divided by 3 equals 4, or I should say 1 minus which number divided by 3 equals 4. Well, let's multiply both sides by 3. 4 times 3. That number must be 12, because 12 divided by 3 is 4. So P is 1 minus 12, so minus 11. Check that. 1 minus 11 is 12 indeed. Factorize completely. Moving on. Now it says completely rather than just factorize for the previous question. So for 2 points, and it's clearly by grouping. So you're going to factorize by grouping. Look at the first group. What is the common factor of 2a and 4b? So that will be 2 bracket a plus 2b, is that right? Bracket. Now, if you look at the second group, you've got to do the same thing. And then in the brackets, you should get the same as there. So also a plus 2b. So what now is the common factor you need to get rid of? Minus x. So take care of that. You take away the negative x. And then you will be left with a plus 2b. So this will be 1 point. Factorize completely for 2 points. So it's a plus 2b. And you want to multiply that by 2 minus x. And of course, you can also term that around 2 minus x times a plus 2b. That's great. Question 11. Rearrange the formula to make x the subject for 2 points. So 2 steps involved. Well, in brackets 2 pi plus y, that will be the coefficient of x squared. So let's get rid of that by division. 2 pi plus y equals x squared. There you go. So to make x the subject, big square root sign, clearly showing that that entire fraction goes inside that root sign. Question 12, again 2 points as the Venn diagram. The number of elements is 20. So in total you have 20 elements. Just put that there at the top to remind myself. The amount of elements in P is 10. So you got 10 elements in P, but some of them will be here and some of them will be there. And you got in Q, you got 13 elements, some also in the middle and some will be there. And then they say the number of elements outside P or Q is 5. So there are 5 over here that do not belong to P or Q, meaning if there are 5 here and 20 in total, there must be 15 in P or Q. Okay, 15. However, at the moment, you have 10 in P and 13 in Q, and those are 23 elements. And I've just said there should only be 15